Hey folks, welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to be talking about things you find in old tackle boxes that aren't fishing plugs or line or hooks or sinkers or things that you actually fish with, but the stuff that we all carry with us anytime we go on a fishing trip. A good example, sunscreen. We carry sunscreen. But anyway, this is the shop series. This is the series where we just talk about vintage fishing tackle and vintage fishing equipment, and tell stories, and sometimes we talk about other things too, besides fishing. But like I said, this particular episode is going to be about those ancillary items that we find in tackle boxes, and I wanted to show you a few things here. This tackle box was given to me, belonged to a fellow's grandfather, and I've been fortunate enough through the years that I've acquired some full boxes that are just the way the original owner left them. And then see I've got several here, and here's some more over here with my fly stuff. Some old wooden boxes, those are always cool. I've got one of my wife's grandfather's fly tying boxes, and we'll look at that sometimes too. But today, let's just look at some of these items that you might find in here. And here's a cool little thing. That's a Tochterman's ruler. Of course, you know most people are going to carry a ruler with them. That's kind of a short one for fishing. It's only 7 inches long, but I guess you could double it up, see how long your fish was. But Tochterman's, you ever get a chance to go to Tochterman's, go to it. It's a tackle shop that still is in business and thriving in downtown Baltimore, Maryland, and has been there for over a century. The owners, the Tochterman family, Tony Tochterman, is still there, and he collects vintage fishing gear, and he's got an amazing collection, and he'll talk to you about it. So go in there and talk to Tony. And you'd like to hear about it. But here's a little wrench to work on your reel, another reel wrench. Here's a pocket knife, a cigarette lighter, and I like those. I like those old cigarette lighters. And this one has salmon fly in there. Most of the time that's what they had. Some of them were more colorful than that one, but they're cool. And that one still works. And here's something else I like. That's a Field and Stream honor badge. So the Field and Stream magazine, which was the most popular fishing magazine back in the 1960s and 1970s, had a contest every year, and you could send in your picture of your fish, and usually, I think you had to put it on a ruler and tell them how big it was, and they'd send you one of those badges. And that contest, they would keep up with, who had the biggest fish, of course, of any species. And some of those badges are for the biggest fish of any particular species. Well, my dad won that contest in 1963. He caught the biggest largemouth bass in the nation in 1963. It was 14 pounds and 7 ounces, and won a whole bunch of prizes for it, including that honor badge. And he wore that honor badge on his fishing cap anytime he went fishing after that. And I remember it all through my childhood. He always had a floppy hat with that Field and Stream honor badge. And I've got some more that I've come across through the years, because I really like them. But today I wanted to talk about something else. So look at these. So this is medicine. So, of course, you carry medicine with you. I still carry rubbing alcohol and peroxide on my boat because it's very frequent that you get, cut or fin prick or get stuck by a hook or something. You're going to get hurt when you're fishing. That's just part of it. And so you want to carry some medicine with you. Well, there was a period of time, if you were born in the 1950s, the 1960s, or maybe even early 1970s, you probably remember Merthiolate and Mercurochrome. So Merthiolate and Mercurochrome were our go-to medicines when I was a kid. If you got cut or scraped, you went in and your mom or dad would go to the medicine cabinet and they'd get out either Mercurochrome or Merthiolate. And oh, Lord, would you squall about it, because you didn't want the one that stung. You wanted the one that didn't sting so bad. And one of them was worse than the other ones, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. But I could never remember. When I was a kid, I could never remember which one it was. So I just asked for the one that didn't sting, and I don't know if I got that or not, because it still stung. But it worked. They were good antiseptics. And they kept, they kept down the bacteria, and so, but because they stung so bad, first thing we do, whenever you put it on, is blow on it. So how many germs did we blow right back on it? I don't know. But you probably know now that Merthiolate and Mercurochrome aren't sold anymore, and there's a pretty good reason for that. The reason they're called Mercurochrome and Merthiolate is because they contain mercury. Not just a little bit either, a lot of mercury. So, I mean, I can remember playing with mercury when I was a kid. I'd break a thermometer open and roll it around, roll mercury around on the on the counter, and because it would stay together and it was cool, it was a cool element. But Lord, how we stayed alive, I don't know. But anyway, your mama would put this on you, and like I said, one of them stung. The one that stung the worst was Merthiolate. Now, Merthiolate, that's a mixture of mercury and bromine. Bromine's a substance that you find. It's an element that you find in seawater and other sources, and it has some antiseptic qualities, but it's also poison too. And if you get too much of it, it'll kill you. And Mercurochrome was just a mixture of mercury and sodium, and they both contain alcohol. But Merthiolate contained 50% alcohol. I don't know if you can see that on there. But that was one that stung the worst, was the Merthiolate. And Mercurochrome didn't sting so bad. So let me open this up for you. So the way you put this on, can you see that? So the way you put that on was through this little dropper thing there, and you can see that one has still got a little red on it because that's what color it was, and you appreciated that red color. Now that's a natural color of bromine, and they also put red dye in it so you can see where you put it. But it was kind of a badge of honor when you're a kid, because you get that stuff all over your cuts and scrapes, and you'd have that red. It was reddish brown color, and you go out there and you didn't have to brag about what a tough person you were to your buddies, because they could see that red dye all over you, and they already know you've been into something. And so there were some advantages to that. So, well, it didn't kill us, and I guess that's the good thing about it. And it worked. It was a pretty good antiseptic, and it did work. Well, it was taken off the market in the late 70s, and completely eliminated from sales in this country, not until 1998. It takes the FDA a long time to get around to, actually doing some helping stuff sometimes. But they did take it off the market, but you can probably still buy it over in, some European countries. Might even be able to buy it in Canada. I don't know. But it's still around. So, people of a certain age, my age, and might be yours if you're watching this, are going to remember Mercurochrome and Merthiolate, because it was a big part of our childhood. So it's always cool when a bottle shows up in an old tackle box. There's an old one there, and I always like seeing them when they show up, because it reminds me of something good. It also reminds me of a story about my Uncle Frank. So my Uncle Frank was from Milstead, Georgia. Milstead's next to Conyers, Georgia, and is south of Atlanta, about 35 miles. And so he was, Uncle Frank was quite a character, and I feel like I got a lot of his genes. He was a writer, and he was also, he loved music. In fact, he's in Georgia Country Music Hall of Fame. He has a display there about him, because he was an early promoter for Fiddlin' John Carson. If you know old-time music, you know Fiddlin' John Carson. And a fiddle player, traveled with a banjo player. He got out with, traveled with Gid Tanner and Skillet Licker sometimes. Look that band up. And they played on my Uncle Frank's front porch, sometimes in Milstead, Georgia. But anyway, Uncle Frank told me one time that when he was a young man, he got sick, and he took Merthiolate, or Mercurochrome, and he coated his throat with it. He had a sore throat. And he said the sore throat went away, and he never got a sore throat again the rest of his life. Now, remember, that's bromine and mercury, or sodium and mercury. But he said he never got another sore throat the rest of his life. Uncle Frank lived to be 97 years old. So it probably ain't all that bad. Probably wasn't all that bad for us. Lord knows what else we got into. Heck, I can remember when I was a kid, I chewed on lead sinkers. That explains a lot too, don't it? Well, that's our episode today, and we'll be back next week, and we'll talk about more fishing stuff, or maybe we'll talk about something else. Who knows? That's just what we do here in the shop. One more look at some tackle, because it's just cool. This particular box was given to me by Patrick Steigerwald, and I just saw him this morning. He was over at a fishing show that I stopped by at and got to talk to some buddies there. But interesting stuff and all good stuff. Hope you'll come back. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And your likes are appreciated. If you got any questions about anything, hey, send them my way. If you got some old fishing equipment you want identified, you need some idea of the value on it, heck, I might even make you an offer on it. Give me a holler. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.